if that's okay, great. All right, so I'll go ahead and read Katrin's bio. Katrin Fink is a breast cancer survivor and has a passion for supporting survivors in making new choices for greater health and well-being. She is a Mayo Clinic certified wellness coach, as well as a national board certified health and wellness coach. She has also been a massage therapist for more than 25 years, supporting her clients with healing and self-care. We are just so excited to have you here today, Katrin, to speak with us on this really important topic. And so I'm going to kind of hand it over to you, and I'll just kind of monitor the chat and let people in. Thank you so much.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Talia. And thank you all for being here. Like Talia shared, I too am a breast cancer survivor. I was diagnosed in 2012, so I'm going into my 11th year cancer-free. So I'm very grateful for that. As a health and wellness coach, what I do is I help my clients take stock of their wellness, create a vision for what they really want for their desired lifestyle. And then I support them in creating lasting behavior change at their own pace and also at their own readiness for change. I work with people individually, and I also am launching a group online wellness coaching program next week for survivors, and I'll share a little bit about that later on. So we're going to talk about sleep, a really important self-care topic, as well as self-care that connects to sleep. So sleep hygiene includes bedtime and wake-up routines, as well as your diet, physical activity, and other aspects of daily life. One of the most important factors of getting good sleep is managing your stress levels. So today, we are going to look at 4 self-care practices that we can develop and strengthen that will help us manage stress better and also in turn then help us sleep better. So we're going to look at movement, mindfulness, positive emotions, social support, and then we'll look at sleep hygiene too in itself. So we'll look at creating specific sleep habits and an optimal environment that sets us up for restorative sleep. I'm going to invite you, if you don't have it already, to have kind of a pen or a pencil available and maybe a journal or something to write on. I'm going to have you do some reflective writing throughout this program tonight. And I'm also going to throw out some questions for you to answer in the chat at different points in time. If there are things that speak to you that you want to write down, I invite you to do that too, because oftentimes by the end of the program, we've forgotten some of the things we wanted to remember earlier. And you're also welcome to take photos of the slides as well to help you remember if there's anything that you want to look at later on. So the first topic we're going to look at is movement or exercise, physical activity. So physical activity is really one of the best things you can do for your health. Movement is life. If you're alive, you should be moving, and any physical activity is better than none. So according to the physical activity guidelines for Americans, physical activity not only makes you feel better, it helps you sleep better and function better. And even just 5 minutes of exercise has real health benefits. You know, sometimes we minimize like going for a walk around the block because we say, oh, that's really nothing. But that's not true. Just 5 minutes of exercise has real health benefits for you. If they're able, adults, even with chronic health conditions, should do at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic physical activity per week. So that equals out to 30 minutes, 5 days a week, if you're able. And moderate aerobic activity includes things like gardening, walking, yoga, tai chi, bicycling on the flat streets. And then also 2 times a week, muscle strengthening activities. If you're not sure of what physical activities are good for you, you can always consult with your physician and always engage at a level that is according to your ability. So, you know, you may not be ready to do a 10-mile run, but maybe you can walk around the block. You just start there. Any kind of movement is valuable for your health. In terms of managing stress, movement supports the body in managing the effects of stress. It helps reduce the cortisol and adrenaline again. It helps us get out of our heads, which is really where anxiety and stress kind of lives, and it brings us back into our bodies. It improves our mood by releasing endorphins, and it helps us relax. And it brings our awareness back into the present moment. There are physical benefits of exercise also for cancer patients. So exercise has been shown to significantly reduce the mortality rates from many cancers, including breast cancer. Physical exercise reduces inflammation in the body. It increases lymphatic flow. So the lymph system is a very important part of the immune system. And it doesn't have a pump like the heart pumps the blood. The pump of the lymphatic system are our muscles. So the more we move, the better the lymph system works. Exercise increases immune cell activity and counts. It improves oxygen delivery and utilization. It improves neurocognitive functioning. So it helps reduce the effects of chemo brain. It also improves a patient's direct response to chemo and radiation. So it has a lot of really great health benefits for cancer patients. This is a question I just love to ask my clients. What kind of movement did you love to do as a child? So when we were children, we just played with joy, right? And abandonment. So joy was a really big part of movement and physical activity when we were children. And if we can connect back to joy in movement now, it'll be much easier for us to do it regularly. So I just want you to reflect on this for a moment. What kinds of movement did you love to do as a child, or physical activities? Did you like to play tennis? Did you like to go on the swings? Did you like to ride your bike? I'm going to have you put that in the chat. And one thing to think about is maybe how could you bring a piece of that back into your life today? So I'm going to have you share that a little bit in the chat right now. Yeah, riding my bike, Talia. I need to get a bike. Yeah, I love to ride my bike too. My daughter, who's 28, just joined a kickball team. And I didn't realize that there were adult kickball teams, but that was always something fun to do. Jump rope and hula hoop from Loretta. Yeah, riding bikes and swimming from Carrie. Sledding. Sledding's great. We can do that. Playing on the playground bars. Sports. Great. So one thing to reflect on is, what did you love to do as a child, and how can you maybe integrate that again into your life? When we create a new movement habit or a physical activity, we always want to start with a small goal and build from there. Sometimes, we get excited and we want to do something that's too much for us, but it's better to start small and then just build from it. Make intentional movement a part of every day. And make it fun and enjoyable. And also, if you can, do it with someone or with an animal. When we have social support in creating a new habit, we tend to do it a lot more often. So if we have a friend to walk with or a friend to go to a yoga class with, we'll do it a lot more often than if we have to do it alone. Also, when you think about making intentional movement a part of every day, we also want to think about organic movement. For example, maybe parking a little bit further away from the grocery store so that we get more steps in as we go to the store and back, or maybe getting on the ground and playing with our grandkids, or if we're on a hike, maybe climbing over a tree stump or crawling underneath something. So the more we can really move our bodies, the more life-giving and health benefits that really has for us. So we want to start thinking, like, how can we move more in our day? Can we maybe do some jog in place? If you're watching a program and there's a commercial, just stand up and maybe jog in place or walk in place, right? So little things that we can think about and just bring back into our life in terms of movement. I feel like our culture is trying to with all the automation and all the delivery services, we've moved away from moving, and we really need to get back into more physical activity. So I want you to reflect for a moment on this topic, and what kind of a physical activity might you want to explore this year? So I'm just going to have you think a moment and reflect on that and write that down. So something that might be interesting that you haven't tried before, or that you'd like to revisit again. Mindfulness. So when we're stressed and anxious, we're not in the present. We're either worried about the future or we're ruminating about our past. Mindfulness is a state of mind that brings us back into the present moment and really helps us also to be more connected to ourselves. So mindfulness is being present and fully aware of what we are thinking, feeling, and sensing without any interpretation or judgment. Often we spend way too much time caught up in our heads, thinking negative or random thoughts, which cause stress, anxiety, and depression. Overthinking creates anxiety, and anxiety creates overthinking. So our brain has a natural negativity bias, and it's wired for survival reasons to overfocus on fear and threat. So it's really important that we kind of realize that this is how our brain naturally functions and start to pay attention to what we're thinking about. So if we can, we want to start to practice bringing awareness or mindful awareness to our thoughts. And one way to do that is just to notice how you're feeling. So if I'm feeling down, or if I'm kind of stressed or anxious, I'll kind of reflect on that and ask myself, what's going on in my mind right now? What am I thinking about? And is this really true? Or is this just fear, and I love the acronym, it's false evidence appearing real. So is it something like that? Is it a story that I've made up about myself, where I'm feeling bad about myself? So mindfulness is really about bringing awareness to our thoughts, and then actually creating the possibility and the option to choosing a different thought or to reframe our thinking. And just that process alone of pausing and questioning the validity of what we are thinking allows the body to begin to let go of stress. This is a really important practice, and it takes practice. It doesn't happen naturally, but the more we can start to become aware of what we're feeling and thinking, the more we have choice then, and we can redirect our attention to something different. There are all kinds of different mindfulness practices that help us to live in the present moment or come back to the present moment. Here are a few of them that I like to use. One is very easy. You can do it at any time. It's connect to your breath. And we're going to do a breathing exercise in a moment together. But you can connect to your breath wherever you are. And it's really just bringing your attention and your awareness and your focus on your breath. Room scan is if you're, for example, at a computer or even in an office space and you're feeling yourself being anxious or stressed. It's just to pause for a moment and just scan the room. And you can do this right now. So by scanning the room, you're just using your eyes to take in what you see, which is like the color of the wall, maybe a picture that you have hanging on the wall, or some artwork, or the decor, or the furniture. And what you're doing is you're just moving your eyes and your head slowly, and it actually starts to shift the body from an anxious state back into the rest state. It initiates the vagus nerve, which is the one primary nerve that brings us back into calm and peace. Another mindfulness stress reduction practice is a walking meditation, where you're outside and instead of thinking maybe about your to-do list, you listen to the birds, You feel the pavement beneath your feet. You feel the sunshine or the coolness on your face. So you're using your senses to take in your environment, and it brings you into the present moment and can be very calming. Body scan or progressive relaxation is just bringing your awareness to your body and just allowing different parts of yourself to relax in that moment. And meditation is also a form of mindfulness. So we're going to do kind of a meditation breathwork practice for a moment. So I'm going to invite you just to close your eyes for a moment and feel your feet flat on the ground. I'm going to have you just connect to the chair that's supporting you and just slow down your breath. We're going to breathe in through the nose and we're going to breathe out through the mouth. And our out breath is going to be twice as long as our in breath. This shifts brainwave function and starts to calm the nervous system. So I'm going to just have you do that. We're just going to breathe in slowly through the mouth, through the nose, and slowly out through the mouth. Just make sure that you're breathing deep from your belly. And go ahead and continue breathing in through the nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose and slowly out through your mouth. And you would continue doing this until you felt yourself in a place of calm. And from that place, then you can move forward. So doing this breathing exercise, you can do it anywhere at any time. You don't have to close your eyes. I had about 8 years ago, I had a severe bicycle accident where I was on a mountaintop and I had crashed and I'd broken my femur. I didn't know I'd broken my femur at that moment, but I knew something was really, really wrong. And I went right into breathing. There were people around me that were supporting me and could help me, but I went right into this breath work and it allowed me to stay really calm and present without getting lost in anxiety. So it's a really powerful tool that you can use at any time. Benefits of having a daily mindfulness practice allows for less negative thinking. It reduces anxiety and stress. It improves mood. It lowers blood pressure. It reduces chronic pain and it improves sleep. And then we also live more in tune with ourselves. So we're more connected to what we're feeling, what we're thinking, and what's going on around us. The next piece, we're going to look at increasing positive emotions. And this does not mean that we don't honor all of our feelings and that we aren't present to how we feel, but that we are intentional about doing things every day that increase our joy and positive emotions. So positive emotions are joy, love, happiness, gratitude, anything that lifts our heart. Positive emotions are very important because they shift us out of stress mode and back into a state where the body can rest and heal. Positive emotions allow the brain to release healing hormones into your bloodstream. And these hormones boost our immune system, support our digestion, improve circulation, and lower blood pressure. Joy is our natural state. As children, we access it easily. As adults, we've learned that life is a little more challenging. And so we sometimes overfocus again on negative things going on in our lives. So we want to be more intentional about focusing on joy and bringing in things into our life that create joy for us. So I just want you to reflect for a moment on what lights you up. So in this picture here, we have somebody who's probably talking to a friend or a loved one on the computer. We have a child who's swinging and really happy. We have a woman who looks like she might be dancing, and then two women who are connecting with a hug. So I just want you to reflect a little bit. What lights you up? And you can share this in the chat. What energizes you? What brings you joy? Oh yeah, playing and snuggling with my cats. Yes. Animals are great for bringing joy. Listening to my son play music, that's wonderful. Carrie, what kind of music does your son play? Learning new things. Learning is, yeah, very stimulating and brings joy. Crafts, yes, artwork is wonderful for that. Piano, keyboard, spending time with my friends, yes. Gratitude is another powerful way to generate positive emotions. So these are three different practices that we can build into our life around gratitude. And there are more ways to do it, of course, but these are three that I love quite a bit. So a lot of times when we get up in the morning, sometimes the first thing we think about is our to-do list or what we're dreading in that our day coming up, or we grab our phone and we start checking our emails. So rather than going right to that, before you leave your bed, visualize the faces of 5 people you love and appreciate and just send them a thought of gratitude. That shifts our perspective and puts us in a whole different place when we get out of bed than when we're worried or already stressed about emails that are coming in. Another wonderful thing to do every day is to celebrate yourself. Our own self-criticism can be a huge source of stress for us. And it's really important that we create practices like this to recognize and celebrate our strengths and the things that we appreciate about ourselves as well. So maybe list 3 to 5 things every day that you appreciate about yourself, your strengths, your accomplishments, your attributes. Another great gratitude practice is to focus on what is working in your life. So list 3 to 5 things daily, whether they're large or small, that you're thankful for. And you can do that even right before you leave your bed too. A lot of times I just, thank my bed for supporting me that night, or I look at my husband, I'm grateful for him, or I'm grateful for our dog. So list 3 to 5 things daily that you are grateful for, large or small. And when we bring our mind to a state of appreciation, it does release a lot of those healing hormones as well. So I'm going to have you take a moment and let's do a celebration of you, and you can keep this private in your own journal, but I'm going to just have you list 3 to 5 things right now in this moment that you appreciate about yourself. Here are some habits that increase positive emotions. So spending time in nature. Nature is very healing and brings joy just naturally. Spend time with people who energize you rather than people who drain you. Start to become very intentional who you have around you. Watch programs that make you smile and laugh, and limit the news or programs that are negative. So watch funny movies, watch funny programs, make that a part of your intentional programming, and limit negative influences. Read material that's inspiring, that's uplifting, that's interesting, that's educational, that brings joy. Create time for fun, for play, and for creativity. So artwork, all kinds of creative projects, even playing card games with friends, or doing things that are just joyful and easy. So what habits, and I'm going to have you write this in your journal, or what habits can you carve out time for every day that energize you and lift you up? Whether it's getting outside, whether it's watching funny programming, whether it's making new friends, whether it's creative projects. I'm just going to have you reflect for a moment. At a fundamental level, we humans need each other. Social support is so important for healing, for stress management, for connection, for joy, for well-being. This is a beautiful quote from Brené Brown. Connection is why we're here. It's what gives purpose and meaning to our lives, and belonging is in our DNA. We are biologically, cognitively, physically, and spiritually wired to love, to be loved, and to belong. When those needs are not met, we don't function as we're meant to be. We break, we fall apart. People love you not despite your imperfections and vulnerability, but because of your imperfections and vulnerability. Researchers have found that people with strong social connections live longer and recover better from illness and disease. With respect to health, frequency is more important than the size of your social circle. So it doesn't matter if you have 10 friends or if you have 2 or 3 good friends, the amount of time you spend connecting with them is more important than the number. When feeling loved, comforted and supported, the brain releases healing hormones that help the body fight off inflammation and boost your immune system. And even connection with our pets and animals can release healing hormones, both for them and for us. So animals are a great part of social connection. Which is easier for you, giving or receiving? I think most of us find giving probably easier. Receiving needs to be practiced. So for many of us, receiving doesn't come easily, right? I think there's a certain piece of being vulnerable and maybe not wanting to bother other people. So it is something, though, that we need to practice, because giving and receiving really are a part of the same equation. If you reflect on how you feel when somebody asks you for some support, most of us are really happy to do that. It creates joy for us when we can help somebody and support somebody in some way. So in many ways, you're giving the gift of joy to somebody by asking for support and allowing them to support you. So practice asking specifically for what you need. If you need specific groceries and you aren't feeling well enough to go to the grocery store, or if you need help gardening, or if you need help walking your dog, be willing to ask people specifically for what you need. This was one of my greatest lessons in my cancer journey. I was the oldest out of 5 kids, so I helped my mom all the time. I was a single parent for 18 years. So I was used to being in charge. I was used to being independent and making, being responsible for all my own things. And when I had my diagnosis, I was 3,000 miles away from my family. And I had to ask the people around me to support me and to help me, to drive me to doctor's appointments, to drive my daughter to school. So I had to really learn to be vulnerable and to allow others to give back to me. And it was a really important lesson. So practice receiving. Here are some ways to strengthen our social support. Reach out to someone you love to deepen your connection with them. recently on CBS Sunday Morning, they had a psychologist and a relationship coach on the show, and they talked about how many hours it took to build an acquaintance versus a good friend versus a best friend. And relationships take time and investment. It takes about 50 hours to make an acquaintance. It takes about 90 hours to make a good friend, and about 200 hours to have a best friend. So reach out to someone and continue to deepen that connection with them. Surround yourself with people who are non-judgmental, who allow you to express your feelings, to be where you are and who you are. Surround yourself with people who are hopeful and believe in your ability to heal and support you in cultivating good habits. Maybe get a four-legged friend or volunteer with animals. And even regular massages or energy healing sessions are helpful in releasing healing hormones. Here's some other things that you can do to strengthen social connection. You can join a group such as a movement class, like a yoga class. You can take an art class or a language class or choir, anything that interests you where you meet new people. You can practice meditation in a group, join spiritual circles that are loving and supportive, or connect with other support groups. So there are many ways that we can continue building friendships and connections, especially now with the pandemic being in a different place, where we're freer to be out again in the community and with people. These are really great ways to kind of build and strengthen our relationships again. So what speaks to you? What might you want to add into your life? And I'm going to have you share this in the chat. What kind of gets you excited? What would you like to do in terms of whether it's deepening a connection with a friend you already have, or maybe joining a new kind of physical activity or doing a creative class? What gets you excited about social? In-person yoga. Yeah, right. Joining a hiking group is another great fun way to meet people and also be physically active. Anybody else? Anything that inspires you that you want to maybe check out this year? Connect with other groups. Anything else that gets you excited? Small step first, get in touch with at least one friend each day. Yes, that's a wonderful thing to do. I like to cook and find new recipes. I actually signed up for a cooking class this weekend with the Survivors Juanita. That's great. Yeah. I took a cooking class several years ago and it was so much fun. So yeah, we want to do something every day to connect with someone. Lucy also says visit friends and family. So how many hours a night do you need to sleep to feel good? How about share that in the chat for a moment? 9, okay. Anybody else? How many hours a night do you need to sleep to feel good? 7 to 8, yeah. 7, 9. Yeah, so sleep is something, Juanita says most likely more than I actually get. Okay. Yeah, often cancer patients struggle with sleep even more than others. Sometimes medication or a lack of certain vitamins and minerals can affect our sleep as well. So if you're really struggling, I encourage you to speak to your physician or to a naturopathic oncologist who can kind of look at your blood work and see what might be missing. But definitely cancer patients struggle with this quite a bit. Having trouble falling asleep, experiencing frequent sleep disturbances, and suffering daytime sleepiness are some of the signs of poor sleep hygiene. So most people, back to our earlier question on how many hours a night do you need to sleep good, most people need 7 to 8. If we're recovering from an illness, we might need more. And there are a few people who do well on 6 or less, but most people need about 7 to 8 at least. So benefits of sleep. Sleep allows the brain and body to recover at night. It supports mood, cognitive function, and memory. It's vital for immune function, heart health, blood sugar regulation, weight management, and other important functions of the body. A lack of sleep can create and activate anxiety and increase stress, the stress hormone cortisol in the body. It can also increase depression and make someone more susceptible to suicidal thoughts. So sleep is really, really important. And I think it's one of our regular activities that has been really undervalued in our culture. So sleep hygiene includes both an optimal sleep environment and habits that influence the quality and the quantity of sleep we get on a regular basis. What habits get in the way of good sleep? So whether they're habits that you have or whether that you know of, but what habits kind of get in the way of our sleep? And you can put this in the chat. Facebook, blue light, yes, being on a screen, right? Blue light stimulates the brain and doesn't allow melatonin to be produced, which is the hormone that helps us relax and sleep. How about Netflix? Getting stuck on a Netflix series. So here are some good sleep practices. First of all, make sleep a healthcare priority rather than an afterthought, right? One of the best things you can do is to create a very regular sleep and wake up schedule. So going to bed at the same time every night and waking up at the same time of day, if possible. If it's like a weekend and you have something going on where you're staying up later at night, it still is good to set your alarm for the same time every morning. It keeps you in the regular rhythm of your body. Getting natural daylight in the morning or early afternoon is also really important, even with rain or clouds. So getting outside, taking a brisk walk in the morning or sitting by a window. So exposing our eyes and our bodies to natural daylight early in the day is really important to keep the circadian rhythm operating normally. So that's our body clock. A lot of times in our culture, we tend to think that alcohol is the best sleep medicine. It's actually not. It does help us oftentimes fall asleep quickly, but it interferes with melatonin production. And it also doesn't allow the REM, which is one of the deeper sleep cycles, the dream states, doesn't allow us to go deeply into a dream state or a sleep state. So we tend to have lighter sleep and not as rejuvenating of sleep when we have alcohol closer to bedtime. Avoid caffeine in the afternoon and evening, and I would say avoid sugar in the late evening as well. So if you're going to have a dessert, have it earlier in the evening or in the afternoon. And also avoid heavy meals within 2 hours of going to bed. And one thing you can do to help kind of track and see what's going on is to create a sleep log and write down what your habits are on a daily basis. And then you can kind of work with that and see what will help you to fall asleep better or what's maybe getting in your way of sleeping well. We also want to have an optimal environment for sleep. So keeping the bedroom cool, at least 65 degrees. Sometimes people will turn it down even cooler than that. Make sure you're not doing anything besides sleeping or being with your partner in the bedroom. You don't want to eat, work, or watch TV in the bedroom. And you definitely want to stop using electronics like 30 to 60 minutes before bed so that the brain can start producing melatonin. Oftentimes, like we said earlier, the blue light from the electronics keeps the brain very stimulated. Some things you can use for sound is using earplugs, or you can use room darkening curtains to help make it darker in the room. Using a white noise machine also really helps with anxiety. And if you can't fall asleep within 30 minutes, get up out of bed and go somewhere else and do something very calming. Don't lay there and be anxious, because what happens is you begin to connect sleep time with anxiety and connect the room and the bed to anxiety. So get up, move around, and maybe go read something for a little while. So here are some practices that help quiet our nervous system. Journaling is wonderful. We can use that as a brain dump to kind of write out our thoughts or our worries or concerns or things we need to do for the next day, listing things. Doing some gentle stretching or yoga to release stress or tension in the body. Listening to ambient music. And there's a type of ambient music called binaural beats. And if you go to Spotify or to YouTube, you can look that up under binaural beats. It's a type of ambient music that calms the mind. It actually changes brainwave pattern. And they have different binaural beats for sleep or for meditation or for calmness. Reading a book versus reading an electronic device. And creating a regular bedtime routine that signals to your brain and to your body that it's time to rest. What bedtime rituals or practices help you fall asleep? Is there anything you want to share on? Is there anything you do regularly that helps you fall asleep? Does anybody have any bedtime rituals or practices? Sleep meditation stories. Reading helps. Unless the book is too good, yes. Yeah, that's a problem. You need to read something a little bit more mundane, I think. Something more serious. Music, yeah. Stop reading at 7 p.m. Reading anything, Roberta, or just something that's interesting? Here are some mindfulness bedtime practices that we can use to help us kind of come into a place of quiet mentally. So one is to do one of the gratitude practices that we talked about earlier, whether it's reflecting on yourself, what you're grateful for yourself that day, what you challenged yourself to do, what you overcame, what you learned, how you showed up for someone that day. So these are all kinds of great gratitude practices you can use towards yourself, or just gratitude for what it's, for what you have and what's going well. Letting go of the day visualization is a powerful practice I've done. And it's really a breathing practice where you're just kind of going within and just letting go intentionally of the day, of any interactions you had, of any stresses you're having in the moment. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll stand next to my bed and I'll visualize like golden rain coming down and just washing away anxiety, washing away interactions, washing away the day, and just letting that go deep into the earth. It's very calming and centering to do that. Practice postponing worry is another practice I've used to help me, because I tend to go lay down, close my eyes, and then I'll start worrying about my daughter, or I'll start worrying about something that's not in my control. So what you can do is kind of visualize a big bubble around you and intend that this is your space for peace and space for rest. And you're going to put your worries outside your bedroom door and leave them there. And in the morning, if you choose to, you can pick them up then and work with them then. So it's an intentional way of training the mind that this time in bed now is a time for a place for rest and restoration. And you'll take care of the worries tomorrow. And it's a practice. So it's a brain training practice, but it actually has worked about 75% of the time for me. Also, a body scan or deep breathing, like a breath work practice like we did earlier, or a body scan where you're going to focus on different parts of your body and just let the tension go. So these are some mindfulness practices. So I just want to review with you. We've just gone over some self-care practices, including movement, mindfulness, positive emotions, social support, and sleep hygiene that support us in managing stress and living more resilient and in sleeping better. I also wanted to just share with you that next week I'm launching an online group wellness coaching program for survivors. It's an 8-week program. We'll cover various topics of health and wellness, and it's a little bit of coaching and supporting you in creating your path forward with that. So I invite all of you, if you're interested, you can go to my website and read about it and check it out. It's another great way for social connection and for growth and for learning. And here's a slide of some references. So these are some articles that I pulled from for the presentation. There's also some additional reading recommendations. There's a wonderful book called The Mayo Clinic Guide to Stress-Free Living. And it's a very easy to read book. And Dr. Amit Sood is now recognized as one of the leading experts in resiliency globally. And he has some great wisdom in that book. I also love Kelly Turner's books. She's written Radical Remission for Surviving Cancer Against All Odds. And she has a new book out called Radical Hope, 10 key factors from exceptional survivors of cancer and other diseases. So I also highly recommend that. So I just want to thank you all for being here today. And I don't know if you have any questions, but I'm here to answer them if you're here, if you have any. And I just appreciate your time and your attention.
Thank you so much, Katrin. I'm just going to stop the recording right now.